Welcome back to Anchor Designs. I'm James, and the day has finally come. I've become an apron guy, you know? Apron guy. Become one of them. It's a whole new world. Today's project, we're going to be making some aluminium soft jaws for our recent restoration of the Record 75. Had a few questions about it and thought I'd make a video on it, so let's get started in a minute as I'm, So this is the vise that we have recently restored. If you want to check that out, head over to the description and I'll leave a link within there. We're going to be using a bevel protractor to start with, just to find the degree of the diamond pattern that is on our jaws. I did have a question of why I'm not refinishing these, grinding these off a little bit and then re-putting the diamond plate in. And there's two reasons. Well, there's a few reasons really. One, my milling machine hasn't really got the onions to actually machine these off. These are very, very hardened jaws. Secondly, I want a dedicated soft jaw vise because I have got a new workshop coming up, which is super exciting. So I'm going to be able to get all my vices out and set them up in different locations of the workshop for different jobs that I've got up and coming. And B, I've never made vice jaws before properly. You know, I've made Tufnell ones and nylon ones before. So I thought this would be a nice project. So let's take a closer look. Okay, to start with, I'm going to be using a different vise. I'm going to be using a swivel vise because it's just going to make my life a lot easier. This isn't a precision job. It's nice and easy, and it's probably a half an hour job to do. I've just been putting it off. I'm going to be using, I think to start off with, I'm going to try using a 4mm by 90 degrees. So that's going to give you a 45 degree angle on there. The angle that we are going to be cutting these diamond patterns is 30-30. So it's 30 degrees one way, and then we'll rotate the vise 30 degrees the other way. And that's going to give you your nice and shiny diamond pattern. So let's get the vise all changed up. My mill's pretty trammed in as best as it can. So let's just do some magic and. Okay, so this is our machinist vise, and I bought this because it was kind of multi-purpose, so you could use it without the swivel, take this off, happy days. The only problem with that is these indications here, our friend, whoever that may have been, has forgot to put the line. I hope you can see this. There is no line to indicate where our position is. So I am going to do this with a DTI to test that up. But if you are looking at one of these vices, it's a reason why it's 60 quid. Okay, so the material that I have is 25mm wide, and we are 15mm in width. And the difference between this and the original, the records that I have of this area, length and size, are all in imperial. So this is an inch by half inch by however long. The 75 in particular was 5 1/4, which was a bit abnormal to the usual kind of stuff that you would get, but that is what we're working with. So all I could get easily and affordably was metric. So we're just going to transfer these over. We might reduce some of the size down in here, but it's not massive. We've got about 2.5 mil to reduce if need be. But as well as having it slightly oversized on the thickness, we can always come back and reduce this if we need to refurb these jaws later on down the line. Oh, bollocks. Okay, so we've cut our stock down to size. The problem is that we've obviously got some burrs. Now, just a top tip here. I'm a big advocate of these 3M Scotch-Brite wheels, and they're like a, I don't know what they're like a plastic deburring wheel. absolutely amazing. You should get them. They aren't an abrasive as such, but they are safe to use on aluminium. And they're just very, very gently. Just take off that edge there. I'm not going to do it, but you can actually just almost run your finger over when it's running. Don't do that, but I don't know what it is. Look them up. They're really, really good for deburring parts, and you get a really nice broken edge. Okay, what I'm going to do first is usually you'd square off one side, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to patinate first. The reasoning behind that is because if the patterns work correctly, or they don't for that matter, come for the end of it, then what I can do is I can actually machine them both when they are diamond to diamond tip contact, if that makes sense. It's just a bit OCD, so what I'll do is I'll make the diamond pattern first, and then I'll put both of the jaws in, and then I'll square them off both sides just to ensure true flatness on both sides. You'll know what I mean later on in the video. Okay, we're going pretty well here. I did have a few issues with the start of the actual cutting, not that that's going to matter a little bit later on anyway. These round column mills have two shells that are above here that clamp the spindle in, and I thought I had this clamped up, but it didn't, and it's kind of skipped on one of these points here. We're all squared in now and tight, etc., but I did have a few little issues on this corner here. But anyway, let's just crack on. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Okay, I've just got to the second pass on jaw number 2, and I'm starting to get quite a bit of tear out from the cutter, and I'm getting a little bit of, it's becoming more and more harder to machine, and I don't want to try and sharpen this cutter because it'll just completely neck up the pattern, but I am going to stick with this like parquet pattern. I'm not going to do a diamond pattern because I've been looking through Google, etc., and I haven't seen anyone else make aluminium jaws with the diamond pattern on because I'm just getting so much tear out towards the end here, and the actual cut quality is burring up terribly. Plus, I've got a bit of a play in the x-axis of my bed here, and I don't know what it is, but I think I just need to tighten something up. I haven't used this in anger for a long time, but there is a little bit of play. But anyway, these jaws we're going to now machine and then tap into one of the opposing faces, as you can see from there. I mean, don't get me wrong, they look really good, but I think the diamond pattern is just going to kill it, and I don't want to scrap these after it's taken me a lot of time and a lot of podcasts to listen to machining these. Next time I'll try a single flute cutter. I think a single flute would work a lot better with this quite soft aluminium. I did toy with the idea of using a router bit, but the one I've got is a 60 degree. I haven't got a, I don't think I've got a 90 degree that's going to be small enough. So we're going to stick with these for now. They're still going to look fantastic, and it's going to be an opposite effect, you know, parquet, whatever you want to call it, effect on here, and that's going to be just as good as anything here. Okay, so we have milled off the faces either end now, so we've a pretty decent, you know, surface finish there. We've still got some more deburring to do, but these are nice and flat and true now. And we have our opposing jaws, which are looking good. Now what we've got to do is probably use a transfer punch on the vise and transfer those hole centres across, and then we'll just drill and we'll tap our threads onto here. Okay, so we've got our jaws over in place now, and naturally with these age of vices there is some movement. So the ledge that both the jaws sit on, it has got a bit of a variable on there, so you might need to shim these up depending on, you know, how they are. The jaws are exactly the same, but the actual ledges that these sit on naturally, as these wear and move, etc., they're not always strictly true. So we're going to just eyeball in, to be honest, the best that we can get these, and I want a bit of an overlap here, because you always get broken edges of the vices, so if you do have a bit of an overlap, then it kind of protects those edges as best as you can. As well, you need to kind of line these up and get these as close as you possibly can. And you'll notice the jaws, the top of the tips to the bottom, I don't know if you can see that, line up where they should, which is what we wanted. So you've got flat to flat contact as much as possible on those jaws. So I've just numbered both of these jaws here, because they are, you know, going to be slightly different, as I say, with these ledges, and we just want these to line up as best as we can. And with doing that, we're going to use what's called a transfer punch. So these are our centre punches with the OD matching the same of the diameter of the hole. I hope that made sense. But basically, when you get the right one, you're just going to want to feel that in there. Make sure you get as tightest possible fit as we possibly can. And I think originally these would have been 5/16 BSW. I can't remember off the top of my head now. So that's a nice fitting one there. So we'll just flip it around, put in these points, make sure the vise is nice and tight, and we're just going to give it a bit of a love tap. You can finish this up with a secondary hit with a proper countersink, with a proper centre punch, sorry. All you want to do is just give that rough witness mark. Remember, it's aluminium. And you don't want these to move wherever possible. Beauty of working with aluminium, it's nice and shiny, so you're always going to be able to see. So if we take this off, and there we have our point marks just there and just there. Okay, for drilling the holes out, I'm not actually going to use the milling machine for this. I'm going to use my Precision Jones & Shipman pillar drill. And this is used for really, really accurate hole drilling, and it's only a chuck capacity up to about 1/4 of an inch. I'm not using the mill because I'm going to be making another set of drawers for actually a friend of mine who's got a similar vise off camera, so I don't want to kind of mess my setup up at the moment. So I'm going to drill these out on here, and then we'll use the other pillow drill to open up those holes, and then tap some threads in there. Now, as I said earlier, traditionally it would have been a Whitworth thread, but we're going to be using 8mm, which is very, very similar pitch size. You just flatten off the top of the heads, if that makes sense. I think that's right. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. But anyway, I'm going to do this to 8mm because that's what I've got and that's what's easily accessible. So let's just power on through this. Okay, we're over to the bigger pillar drill now. Okay, so there we have our 4 holes. These are at 6.8mm, ready for a M8 1.25 pitched thread tap. So we'll do all the finishing and polishing up when we've done, but these are just to make it a little bit easier countersunking. Okay, now we've got to tap these holes. I'm going to do this actually from the other way. There is a reason. Which we'll get onto, and I'm using, it's a little bit OTT this, but this is a sprung-loaded centre point pin, whatever you want to call it. It's a tapping guide, and this goes into the top of your tap handle, you know, something like this, or a more traditional tap handle. And this one just so happens to be the gear wrench, and it is a ratchet one, which is super nice, especially on Myford lathes. This is super handy. If you haven't got this kind of setup, a tool I would recommend is one of these, which is a Gator tool, Big Gator Tools, American firm, and this is actually the drill guide, but I'd use it for a tap guide as well. It doesn't really matter. And you put this block onto here. You line up your correct hole, and this is just going to correctly line up your hole really nicely. Just a top tip. Okay, well, we've got everything fit up here and looking good. I've just gone over everything with like a bit of Scotch-Brite just to try and give that nice clean brushed look. I have rubbed off the left and right, but that's no matter at all. There's only one way that these can go. And I'm just going to mark my work with my small little stamp here, just for future reference. Nice little touch as well, like so. Fit it with the jaws as well. I'm going to be using these. These are not the original nor the correct screw for these, but they're a lot more period than the kind of ones you can get. I'd like to get dome heads because they look very, very nice and pretty, but you can't get those. So I've got pan heads, slotted pan heads, which I think they'll look fine. I'm going to do this off camera because I need 24 hours to actually do these, and I need to kind of get this project done and dusted. But off camera I'll be leaving these in white vinegar overnight, and I will be using some cold blue just so it fits in the rest of the feel of the vise. But for now we're just going to roughly fit these just so you can kind of see the final result. Okay, and then we have our fit up. So we've just put in these flatheads. I've put on some stainless spring washers as well. Fine with those. I know spring washers aren't a bit old technology or whatever, but it just seemed to fit the vise pretty well. We've got nothing protruding, so the bolts are actually just the spot on size, and these marry up now really, really nicely, as you can see there. Looks good. And that's going to be a wrap for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do give me a like and hit that subscribe. I'm sorry if this video did go on a little bit. I tried to keep it as brief as I can. And sorry if any waffling. But if you've got any comments or anything, then you know, please do leave one. If I was to improve on this, I'd probably buy a better cutter. But this is going to be absolutely fit for purpose, what I need, and they've turned out really, really nice. And yeah, it's going to be quite exciting in the next few months. We have got a new shop coming up. It's going to be a lot bigger than this one, and I've got some fantastic ideas. So make sure you stick around, and I look forward to making the next one. See you next time. Thank you. The only problem with this is my nipples are very, what's his name, Marty Feldman? And they're just here. Oh.